Thank you to the media for your amazing assistance over the last couple days. You have been very, very good about retweeting and republishing everything that we have put out. You've been great messengers for us as we have gotten through these difficult last couple days. I'm here to tell you, just to give you a little bit of an update as to what's going on. There is significantly high potential for additional rain tonight. So we are encouraging everybody to stay indoors, to stay off the streets if possible, to avoid areas that they know historically have flooded. We received record amounts of rainfall over the last 2 days. There is no way in the world that any system could have accommodated the amount of rainfall that we got in that short period of time. We obviously had significant street flooding. We had some collapses, as we have seen here behind us. This is the last major collapse. But as it gets dark tonight, as the storms potentially come through, as potentially heavy rainfall, I'm asking everyone to stay inside and avoid areas that they know are areas that traditionally have high water. Most of the standing water around the city has diminished. We still have some streets like Jeton, particularly the 2900 block of Jeton, that still has some additional water on it. The ground is absolutely saturated. It cannot take too much more rainfall. So if it does rain, the rain is going to collect on the surface because it has nowhere else to go. Low tide is in a few hours. Obviously, the tide affects the amount of tidal flow. Right now, the tide is, I look like in a slack tide. Maybe it's going up, but we need to be careful and be cognizant of the tides. Tides affect the drainage. We handed out about 4,000 sandbags already. We're going to continue to do that tomorrow. We've gotten additional sand because of the high demand from the county, and we are appreciative of that. The same locations where we've been handing out sandbags are where we continue to hand out sandbags, but flooding continues to be an issue. And again, and I can't emphasize this enough, I need people to stay off the roads tonight. Hopefully tomorrow, most of the rain will have passed, but just be smart. Avoid the areas where you know there's flooding, and avoid the areas where historically there have been issues. This culvert behind us, and thankfully, as you can see by the backhoe that is right in the middle of the canal, the best thing I can say about this is our city employee was not hurt. That vehicle may be a total loss, but our city employee is fine. Our folks have been out here working for the last 48 hours as hard as any group of men and women can work. I couldn't be prouder of them. They're going to continue to work through the night to try and get this resolved. Let me tell you how serious the problem is. In terms of the amount of water that we have pushed through our wastewater system, on a normal day, we move 60 million gallons of water or wastewater through our system. In the last 24 hours, 155 million gallons of water has moved through our system, which has stressed our system as much as it can possibly be stressed. We are seeing some of the manholes pop up as a result of the pressure and as a result of the amount of the water. Again, we encourage people to not play in the water. Do not let your children play in the water. Let the water recede, and then things will get back to normal. We continue to have concerns about cave-ins. When the ground is this saturated, we need to be aware of cave-ins, and I anticipate, and our folks anticipate, that there will be wastewater cave-ins over the next couple days as the water recedes and the ground starts to get a little soft and sometimes potentially will collapse in on itself. I'm going to introduce you to a couple people here that will be very, very active tonight, who play a major role in what's going on tonight. We have the Tampa Fire Chief here, Tom Ford. We have Assistant Chief, Tampa Police Chief Brian Dugan here. We have Brad Baird, who is the Administrator of Water and all things infrastructure. We have Gene Duncan here. We have Eric Weiss, who runs our wastewater systems. I'm going to let Brad Baird come up right now and give you sort of a synopsis as to where we are with the system, with the flooding, with the roads, and then we'll introduce some of the other people. Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Mayor. We don't have any major roadways that are flooded at this time. We do have, as the mayor mentioned, a couple spots that still have flooding, but our wastewater system right now is a major concern. it's backed up and will take at least a couple days to get caught up. What you see behind me is an example of a culvert that where we had a major piece of debris. We don't know what it was or what it is that clogged up the culvert, and our backhoe and operator were trying to get that debris out of there because the water was rushing around both sides of the culvert, and as you can see, caused a lot of damage. And in that process, the bank gave way, and the backhoe went into the canal. But thankfully, the operator is okay, and we'll be working the next few days to restore this drive and try to remove that debris and get the backhoe out of the canal. So with that, you want to, Mayor?
The police department, we obviously continue to operate. We have our cops out on the street 24/7. They're giving us continuous feedback of what the water is like out there on the streets. We have pre-staged some of our equipment for barricades and things like that so that we can immediately shut down intersections as needed to prevent people going into any areas where they should avoid.
Tampa Fire Rescue is basically running normal runs and normal routines for the day. No significant emergency responses outside of our normal responses. However, yesterday it was significant with the amount of water that was going down, as well as a number of vehicles that were stalled and a number of drivers that were in there as well. But at this point, we're in a normal phase. The Emergency Operations Center, we have a watch officer on staff on duty right now. We'll be giving out situation reports every 4 hours, and obviously if conditions warrant, there will also be reports given out between hours if that occurs. But right now, the situation is normal with Tampa Fire Rescue and the Emergency Operations Center.
Eric Weiss, Director of the Wastewater Department. The wastewater system is running at full capacity right now. All of our 225 wastewater pumping stations are operational and pumping at 100% capacity to our wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant have seen consistent flows, not over the last 2 days, but over the last week and a half that we haven't seen in many years. I also want to stress what Mayor Buckhorn said. We do have some scattered water coming out of manholes. Please have your kids stay away from those.
Thank you. Gene?
We will have our crews monitoring the situation through the night. Gene Duncan, Transportation and Stormwater Services. We're asking anyone, if you see an issue out, and again, we hope you stay home, but if you see an issue out, our 24/7 call number is 274-3101. We'll take any calls that come in and go out and investigate those. We're also continuing to monitor our stormwater pumps and our fragile locations within our system to take any reactive measures that may be necessary during the night.
All right. So again, thank you for your assistance. You've been a great help as we get this information out. Again, I cannot stress enough, stay inside tonight. If there is more rain coming, you don't need to be out on the streets. Tomorrow during rush hour traffic, we anticipate most of the roads will be open, the major roads. But if you know that there are areas that traditionally have flooded, avoid them at all costs. But stay in touch with us. We will continue to stay in touch with you. And at that point, I'll take any questions that anybody may have.